Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's video we'll cut bubu gown. It's a long bubu gown, a shoulder pleated bubu gown. Okay, so I'll be using this fabric. This is a brocade, or you can call it damask, anyone goes. So the length of the gown I'm working on is 63 inches. Then I'll be adding extra 3 inches, making it 66 inches. So that 2 inches will be my folding allowance, and 1 inch will be for my sewing allowance. So after marking this 66 inches, the next thing I have to mark on is the sleeve opening. So I want the sleeve opening to be about 13 inches. So I'll mark 13 inches for the sleeve opening. So this is 13 inches for the sleeve open. Then the neck depth, the wideness of the neck, I'll do 3.5 inches. You can do more than that. And the neck depth for the back, I'll do 2 inches. I'll connect it from the wideness to the depth. Then the front neckline, I'll do 8 inches. 8 inches. But I won't be connecting it now. I'll connect it later. So from your shoulder back to where you want your sleeve to be, you got to mark it. So on this one I'll be marking 23 inches. I'll be marking 23 inches for the length of the sleeve, from shoulder to the sleeve line. So after that, the next thing I will do is from shoulder. So the next thing is to measure where my hip stops. So from shoulder to hip, if you don't know how to get your hip, you first of all measure your waistline, which is your half length, 18 inches. Then you add 9 inches for it, so that you can be able to get your hip. So 18 plus 9 inches will give you 27, or you can do 28, depending how tall the person is. So after marking the hip line, the next thing I have to do is I'll divide my hip into 4. Whatever I get is what I'll mark on the hip line. So my hip is 42. Divided by 4 will give me 10.5. Then I'll be adding extra 3 inches, both for sewing allowance and for freeness. That will give me 13.5, but I'll make it round number, 14 inches. So at the back here, at the down part here, 14 inches. So on the sleeve area, I'll be marking 20 inches because I'll be folding the shoulder. I'll be folding the shoulder by 6. Remember, it has a pleat at the shoulder. So 14 plus 6 inches will give me 20 inches. Then looking at the sleeve area, you will notice that from here to the sleeve is very short. While it is short is because I'll be adding extra material like 2 inches on the sleeve line. So after that, the next thing is to connect the lines. So after that, I'll carve the armhole. So after carving the armhole, the next thing is to cut it out. So after cutting it out, the next thing I have to do is to cut the neck line. Both the front and the back. And here I have to notch the neck area. So after cutting the neckline, I'll open it. But before that, I have to notch the shoulder. So I'll open it up. So to get the front shoulder neckline, from here I'll mark 8.5, depending how open you want the neck to be. 8 inches or 8.5. But here I'm marking 8 inches. I'm marking 8.5 rather. So from the neckline I will connect it down to the 8.5. I'll cut this place out, but before cutting it, you know, I'm removing some inches at the back because I'll be putting plain material at the front. Sorry, I'll be removing some inches. So at the front, at the center front, I'll mark 1.5 inches. I hope my chalk is visible. I'll mark 1.5 inches straight down. So after marking 1.5 inches straight down, I'll cut it out. Getting to the neck area, I'll connect it here down to this point. I'll connect it down to the 1.5 inches that I marked. Indicate where your neckline stops, please. So I'll notch where my neckline stops, which is here. And I'll replace these pieces. I'll replace it with a plain green fabric. That's what I'm going to use. for the stripe, the bag that I cut out, I will replace it. So after this, the next thing I have to do now is to cut out a long stripe of 2.5 inches. A long stripe of 2.5 inches or 2 inches, because remember I'm going to use half inch to join it here. If I take out half inch here, it means I've removed 2 inches from the front. So I'm using half inch on the plain fabric to join it, so I'm going to cut out 2.5 inches. Okay guys, to cut your lapel, I cut out 2.5 inch on fold. You see, 2.5 inch on fold, that's 5 inches. Okay, and I've already pressed it and I've put my interfacing. So the next thing I have to do now is to fold it into 2 equally. Okay, this is the center of it. So all I have to do now on the fabric, I'll measure where the front neckline stop. I'll measure from the center back down to where I want my v-neck, the front line, to end. So I'll measure it all around. And I'm having 14 inches. So from this part, I'll measure 14 inches and I'll mark it. So on this 14 inches that I measure, I'll notch it. So after I notch it, I'll open it up. I'll open it up this way. Making sure that the notch area is together. This is it. This is where I notch. This is where I notch. So I'll start my sewing from here. If you are not convinced, from the top you can measure your 14 inches again. So this is my 14 inches again. So from this point, I'm going to run a stitch. From this 14 inches, I'm going to run a stitch till I get to where I want the opening to start from. So in order for you to get your opening, all you have to do is measure from this part, from the shoulder line, where you want your opening to start. So my own, I will measure 41 inches or 40 inches, depending where you want your opening to start. Mine will start at 40 inches. So this is 40 inches. This is 40 inches. Okay. So at this point, to get where 40 inches stop on this lapel, all I have to do is to open it up. Remember, here is our 14 inches, including the front, and including the back and the front here. So you just measure from that place where your neck stop, that's the 14 inches, to where your 40 inches stop, to know what you have. So from here I have 31.5. So from this 14 inches where I notch, from this 14 inches, I'll measure straight down until I get 31 inches. That's where my opening will start from. So this is 31 and a half, sorry, 31 and a half. So this is where my opening will start. So I'm going to sew from here, from this point down to this 31 inches. That's where my opening will stop. So I'll go and sew it on my machine. Okay, I've sewed the lapel. This is it, and I've ironed it. Okay, this is where my neck stops, and this is where my opening starts. Okay, so all I have to do now is I'll notch the midpoint of the back, center back. This is the center back. I'll notch this plate. I'll notch this place. And I'll open the clothes. So I'll be joining this center back. I'll be joining it from here. After joining it, this is what I'm going to have. It will be like this. So I'm going to have something like this after joining it. So I'll go to my machine and join it for you to see. So remember, I'm starting at the center back. So I'm going to sew it this way. I'll sew this way till I get to the down. Then I will not turn it again and start from here. I'll sew until I get to the down. So guys, I'm done with the neck. As you can see, this is the opening of the neck, and here is the down part. So the next thing now is the shoulder pleat. So to do the shoulder pleat, you come to the shoulder. This is the shoulder. From here I'll measure 5 inches. 5 inches. From the 5 inches I'll measure 6 inches, and I'll divide the 6 inches into 2. That's 3. I'll get the midpoint and mark the 3. So from the neck, 5 inches. From 5 inches I'll mark 6 inches. Then I will get the midpoint of the 6 inches. That's how I'm going to do my pleating. Then from the shoulder line I'll come down by 16 inches. That's the half length, or 17 inches rather. And I'll do the same to the back. From the shoulder line I'll come up by 17 inches. So I will now do my pleat. Remember, my pleat is 3 inches. So I'll measure the 3 inches to be sure. As I'm holding the midpoint, I'll use my tape to measure to be sure that I have 3 inches. So from where I'm holding to the midpoint is 3 inches. So I'll pin it down. I'll also check here again. I'll make sure that I have 3 inches. I'll also pin it down. And at this point, I'll also check the same thing. So I'm going to flat it down this way. Then if I want to sew, I won't be sewing from this shoulder line down to the 17 inches where I measure. I'll sew from the shoulder line down to 6 inches, and from this part, shoulder line to the back, I'll also sew 6 inches. So in a straight line, I am sewing 12 inches. So this is the 3 inches. Remember, you mark it to be sure. So I'm connecting the 3 inches in a straight line to be sure of what I am sewing, to avoid mistake. So I'm sewing from here down to this point. So I'll do the same thing to the other side. I'll turn it and do the same thing to the other side. So from the shoulder line, I'll measure 5 inches. From the neckline to this point, I'll measure 5 inches. Then from the 5 inches, I'll measure 6 inches. So I'll get the midpoint from this 5 inches to 6 inches. I'll get the midpoint, which is 3. I'll mark 3. So my shoulder pleat will be 3 inches. So from this part, I'll measure 17 inches for the half length. And from shoulder to the back, I'll also measure 17 inches for the half length. I hope my chalk is visible. So after that, the next thing I have to do is to pleat it again. So I'm going to hold this point and this point together. Making sure they are equal. And I'll pin. Always measure with your ruler to be sure that you have your tape, to be sure that you have 3 inches, as you can see. Then I'll also do the same to this part. And I'll also do the same to this part. Then after that, I'll flat it this way. So I'll mark my 3 inches. So from this shoulder, I'll mark 6 inches. That's where the sewing will stop. I won't sew to the 17 inches, which is the half length. From this part, I'll measure 6 inches. And I'll mark my 3 inches straight, so I can be able to follow the straight line while sewing it. So after marking it, the next thing is to iron it. Is to iron it flat. If you look at it, you will notice the shoulder line is equal. The shoulder line is straight equal. It's very important. I'll also iron the other side. So after that, I'll go to my machine and run a stitch from this point down to this point, and I'll do the same to the other side. And all right, so as you can see, I've sewed the shoulder. So I've run a stitch on it, and I've done the same thing to this side. So the next thing now is to cut out the belt. So to cut out the belt, I'll be needing like 20 inches length. My belt is always 6 inches, folded by 2 is 3. So I'm cutting for the both sides. So I'm folding it by 2. I'll measure 6.5. Half inches will be for the sewing. And the length of the belt will be 30 inches. So I'll be cutting it out. That's what I need for the belt. So I'll fold it. Let me fold it one after the other. So after folding it, I'll trim the down part area to give me a belt shape. So this is what I have for the belt. I'll take it to my machine and sew it this way, straight down, and I will turn it up. Alright guys, I'm done with the belt. I've sewed it, turn it and iron it. Then I have to push the edges inside. And iron. So to attach the belt, you have to measure your waist area from shoulder to your half length. That's 17 inches as we marked before. Then you do the same to this side. From your shoulder to your half length, 17 inches. So after marking the 17 inches, you will divide your waist by 4. So the waist measurement is 38. 38 divided by 4 will give me 9.5. So from this point, this joining area, you mark your 9.5. That's here. Your 9.5, that's here. Then you mark the other side. That's quarter of your waist measurement. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. Then you put this belt, but you're doing this at the back, not at the front. So let's turn it. You're going to do this at the back of the cloth and not at the front of the cloth. So I'll get the half length again. That's 17 inches. And you get the quarter of your waist. That's 9.5. So this belt will be stitched here. You stitch the belt here. Let me come close. This the 9.5. And then I'll also measure the other side, the half length. That's 17 inches. And the quarter of your waist, that's 9.5. So the other belt will be here. So I'll go and run a stitch on the belt and show you how to do the sleeve area. Okay, I've sewn the belt. This is the belt. I've attached it both sides. This is the belt for the both sides. So the next thing now is the sleeve. To attach the sleeve, you cut out a long stripe that will be enough for this length of the sleeve. This is what I cut out. So I'm going to place it this way and run a stitch, a straight stitch. After sewing it, then I will interlock it. Then I'll have something like this. So I will do this to this side, and I will do to this side also, to the other sleeve. I also sew to the other sleeve. So I'll take it to my machine and I'll run a stitch and interlock it, iron it out, and show you the result. So guys, I've done the sleeve area. This is the outcome. This is the back. I've also interlocked it. This is the other sleeve. I've done it. So the next thing now is to close it. It has pocket too. So it's to join the both front and back together and measure out the pocket area. So you're going to be closing with the sewing allowance that you added. So but before that, I'll measure from shoulder to my half length. That's where the pocket will start. This is my shoulder line. From shoulder to my half length is 17 inches. My half length is 17 inches, but I added 1 inch, giving it 18 inches. So I've marked it So from that 18 inches, I'm going to come down by 7 inches. From the 18 inches, I'll come down by 7 inches. So from here I'll run a stitch. You remember you close your side sewing with the allowance you added. So mine, I'm going to close with 1 inch. So I'll sew 1 inch. When I get to this 18 inches, I'll top stitch it. Then I'll leave this space and I'll start from the 7 inches and I'll sew to the down. Okay guys, I've closed the both sides. This is the pocket opening, as you can see. I've closed the side. So the next thing I have to do now is to cut the pocket. I'll show you how to cut the pocket. The wideness of the pocket, I'll be needing 20 inches. So I'm going to fold it into 4. So if I fold it into 4, that means I'm having 10 inches. So this is it. So it's folded into 4. So the length now is 10 inches folded into 4. That's giving me 14 inches. Okay, then the length, 18 inches will be okay for the length, as far as you have enough fabric, unless you are managing your fabric. 13 inches. So I'll cut it out. So to cut out the side of the pocket, I want you to have a curve. So you just, it's either you use your chalk and carve it out like this, or you leave it in a 4 corner. But I want mine to have a round curve. So this is what I have for my pocket. What I have to do now is I'll take 2 left, wrong side facing each other. Remember, wrong side facing each other. So I'm going to measure from here. I'll measure 1 inches from here to here. So from this 1 inches, I'll run a stitch, stitches here, get to this point, stitches to this point, and I'll measure another 1 inches. So I'm leaving a space of 1 inch on this point. So I'm going to stitch it all around. So I'll do the same to this one. Remember, wrong side facing each other, so that after sewing it, you will turn it in. The right side will be inside, while the wrong side will be outside. Then after doing that, I'll now hem the down part. This is the down part. I'll hem the down part with 1 inch. I will always open here while hemming my down part. I'm going to hem it with 1 inch. So after that, I will show you the final look of the dress. Okay guys, I've sewed the pocket. I told you, wrong side facing each other. This is the right side, this is the wrong side facing each other. So I'll turn it inside out, and this is what I'll have. I'll iron it flat, then and I'll fix it. I'll show you how to fix it. And at the down part, I've already hemmed it, as you can see, very neat. So how to fix the pocket, I'll turn the back. This is the opening stitches. So all you have to do is, this calf area will be up while this part will be down. So from where your stitches stop here, you come up by 1 inch. From that 1 inch, you open this thing up like this. You open the allowance up like this. Then you place this 1 inch or 1 inch above the stitches. You place it this way and run a stitch on it like this. Then after stitching, you turn the other side and place it on the other closing allowance, and also run a stitch. I hope you see what I explained. So I'm going to run a stitch here, and I'll also run a stitch on the other side. remember you're going to open the pocket. You have two allowance stitches here, so you open this one and place it here, and the other side you place it on this side. So I'll do the same thing to the both side of the pocket, then I will iron it neatly and show you the final look on a dummy.